The back is the workhorse of our body. Little do we care, and therefore we don't know much about our back. How is it structured and how does it work? When our doctor speaks about anatomic structures, it may sound to us as if he's speaking in a foreign language. We may think that anatomy is complicated, boring, or scary. However, a person who is actively interested in his own health knows how his back works and why it acts and reacts in certain ways, which actually increase the speed of his own recovery. Let's consider briefly the back and its components: the spinal cord, the spine, and the muscles and ligaments. What do we mean by spinal cord? As we can see in the figure, the spinal cord is a continuation of the brain, a long tube of nervous tissue that runs down your back, extending from the skull's base until the smallest and lowest section of your back. What does the spinal cord do? Basically, it is a retransmitter of messages. Various nerve roots come out of the spinal cord, transmitting and receiving information to and from the arms, legs, internal organs, and indeed all parts of the body. For example, when we choose to move an arm, the brain sends a message through the spinal cord to the nerves that drive the muscles of the arm. These muscles move when they receive the signal. The messages also travel in the opposite direction. If we touch a hot utensil with the hand, the pain signal travels through the nerves of the hand to the spinal cord, which in turn sends it to the brain. Only when it reaches the brain do we become aware of the pain. The spinal cord is the body-grade communication channel. The spine, also known as the vertebral column, as its name implies, is a chain of small bones called vertebrae, separated from each other by sturdy shock absorbers called intervertebral discs. The spine is supported by muscles, ligaments, and cartilage. The functions of the spine are to host to protect the spinal cord, support the arms through the shoulder girdle, the legs through the pelvic girdle, the skull and the ribs. Provide large areas of bones so that the muscles, tendons, and ligaments can work together and enable body movement. Our spine has to deal with two opposing needs, stability and mobility, which makes it a fascinating mechanical structure and as such requires our attention and care. The spine is composed of 5 regions comprising 33 vertebrae. It has a double S shape. It bends slightly inward by the neck, then it goes slightly outward in the chest area, bending again slightly forward at the navel's level and slightly back at the lowest part. To simplify it, doctors divide the column into 5 regions. First, cervical region. It's the area by the neck composed of 7 vertebrae. It is the highest part of the spine and holds the head. Second, thoracic or dorsal region. It's the chest area composed of 12 vertebrae, which are bigger and heavier than those in the neck. Third, lumbar region consists of 5 vertebrae. Just like the cervical spine, it's very flexible. Most back pains start here because something is wrong with the muscles, ligaments, discs, or vertebrae in this region. 4. Sacral region. It consists of 5 vertebrae. It has no significant movement because the vertebrae are fused. 5th, the coccyx region, known as the tailbone, consists of 4 small vertebrae fused together. The vertebrae have 3 functions: to support body weight, to protect the spinal cord, and has roles in both posture and movement. The intervertebral discs constitute a third of the total length of the spine. They tend to absorb water, especially at night when we sleep. The statistics show that problems with the discs are only between 5 to 7% of all cases of pain in the lower part of the spine. How does the lower back work? The 5 lumbar vertebrae are responsible for most back pains in a direct or indirect way. We know that the thoracic vertebrae are attached to the ribs, forming a safe that protects the heart and lungs. The lumbar region of the spine, lower back, on the other hand, is specially designed for movement, but at the same time it has to give weight support, functions which are difficult to perform at the same time. By combining lumbar movements with the load of weight, for example, a housewife moving furniture, a worker lowering heavy load from a truck, etc., the lumbar region becomes vulnerable and susceptible to injury. The 5 lumbar vertebrae work together as a unit, allowing us to bend forward, backwards, and twist to the sides. This working unit is supported on the pelvis, which also has the hip bones attached to it. The pelvis acts as a pivot that connects the spine, hips, and legs. The position of the pelvis affects the position of the lumbar spine, which is located right above it. If the pelvis is balanced, then the vertebrae will be balanced too. This is the sturdiest position of the spine, with which it'll be less vulnerable to injury. If the pelvis is tilted forward, the vertebrae are misaligned, resulting in an uneven contraction of the discs, causing weakness in the vertebrae and thus making the back vulnerable to injuries. On the other hand, when the lumbar vertebrae are aligned as a consequence of the pelvis being balanced, the discs won't be squeezed, the joints won't be overloaded, and the maximum possible space will be provided for the exit of the nerve roots from the spinal cord. 4 groups of muscles are responsible for the balance of the pelvis, as we'll see below. The muscles are made out of contractile fibers, which respond to nerve impulses. The muscles make up about 40% of our body's weight. There are approximately 140 muscles attached to our spine that do a tremendous amount of work. A muscle is a contractile tissue, which works and carries messages contracting, shortening, and relaxing or enlarging. The more the muscle works, the more it will develop and gain strength. The cause of lower back pain in 90% of the patients is due to muscle spasms, also known as muscle cramps. Cramped muscles can pull the vertebrae abnormally, causing mechanical problems and possibly other major problems. In a way, muscle spasms are a protective mechanism of the muscles. They can be caused by different factors like obesity, a sudden pull from having lifted something heavy, excessive stretching, an accident, prolonged immobility, posture of the body while driving or reading, pregnancy, or even psychological causes like nervous tension, depression, anxiety, fear, etc. However, these factors are worthless if the various muscles associated with the back are strong. Thus, they will always keep the pelvis in a balanced position. Why do these muscles weaken? Back pain is a hypokinetic illness, which is brought on by diminished mobility. This means that inactivity or sedentary lifestyle are the major factors which contribute to a person having backaches. It is well known that if muscles are not sufficiently used, they become soft and weak. There are 4 groups of muscles that support the spine, which work collectively and are interdependent. Number 1. Spinal erectors, which line the spinal column from the lower to the upper back and keep the column upright. Second, front abdominals, which support the spine from the front and protect the abdominal organs. Third, laterals. They are located in the sides of the trunk, forming a lateral wall for the abdomen. The lats are crossed in a way that they help control the lateral flexion of the spine. 4. Hip muscles. If any of these muscles is weak from having been stretched or shortened too much, the spine will not be properly aligned, increasing the likelihood of back pain.